Hey YouTube, just want to do a quick update to the many reviews that are on YouTube for the Ontario RD9 knife. Now this is, as far as I know, the 2012 version. Not much functionally sets the knife apart from any other version that I'm aware of. However, one thing I was pleasantly surprised with when I got the knife in its form is the addition of a slightly modified sheath. Now the previous sheath, and one of the shortcomings many people pointed out, were that it had a single velcro strap, which is fine for most circumstances, but they do tend to get worn out. They do tend to get gummed up with snow and ice and effectively have a hard time securing the knife. With the 2012 version, as you can see, it's a double button clasp. They're fairly stiff to get out, which is a good thing. The fact that there's two of them, even better. One thing though I can really appreciate about this design is that it has some articulation to the straps, so at least on the one side the straps stay wide open, making it a little bit easier to place the knife. As I said, functionally the knife is identical. One thing that was pointed out in some other reviews with some Ontario knives is that rather than having stamped numbers and names on it, they're now laser engraved. Some people will point out that the stamping of a knife can fatigue it in that particular spot. I'm not sure of the legitimacy of that claim. Common sense says it stands to reason that it may in fact weaken the knife at that point. However, all these ones are laser engraved. They look quite nice actually. They still have a semi-recess to them, I guess because of the laser engraving, but other than that, I don't see any reason why it would fatigue at that spot. Other things that people pointed out were variations in the setting of the bolts. My particular knife, very nicely counterflush on the first two, a little bit deeper on the last one. Not a big thing, but something to point out. At least they're not raised, which might catch on something or otherwise irritate you when you're handling the knife. Fit and finish of the knife, more than what I expected for Ontario knives. Based on what I could see on the internet, you have to base it on pictures before you buy it. Nobody in my area actually had one that I could check out in person, but fit and finish is excellent. The other one issue people pointed out were the slight point to this portion of the knife, of the handle. It is noticeable, you definitely feel it. It's not something that a piece of sandpaper, 220, could knock down quite easily and not really affect the finish of the handle. Being micarta, it is already roughly textured, so I don't see any reason why you couldn't sand that down. I suspect over time that this would wear out with normal handling. Weight-wise, the knife, if I can try and balance it, is really nicely balanced. I mean, it just sits there. This is a very nice handling knife, no question about it. I did take a micrometer to this knife just to measure it, to see what it specs out at, and without a doubt it is exactly 1/4 inch steel, which is really impressive. So it's not that they started with 1/4 inch stock and ground it down to finish it and you ended up with something less than 1/4 inch. It specs out exactly at 1/4 inch right here, which is fantastic. I don't feel cheated with this knife, which is a good thing. Very nice distal taper to the knife. It feels good in the hand. The knife itself has a flat grind, as everybody else has pointed out, so we get nothing functionally different with the knife. Again, the sheath, aside from the double clasp there, still, from what I can tell, maintains the exact same plastic insert that they have in here, which is somewhat difficult to get out at the best of times. Not particularly impressed with this component of the sheath. Not sure if you can make it out on the video, but the sheath is really a flat piece of whatever this plastic is that's melted and folded over once. And in between that it's glued with some sort of hot glue to keep it from spreading apart. What I particularly didn't like, and what was surprising to me when I first took this piece out, was that as it's folded over, I guess it became brittle and has now already cracked. This knife has yet to be used. This knife was only in transit. I suspect, and can only suspect, that this crack happened during transit. Something like this, such a critical component to protecting the sheath and basically protecting the wearer of the knife, shouldn't fall apart like that. That to me is unacceptable. I plan on contacting Ontario. I don't suspect they'd give me any trouble sending me a new plastic insert, but clearly there's a better material out there that they can use than this. I know some people have taken to melting their plastic insert to give the knife a little bit more rigidity within the sheath so it doesn't move around. I haven't tried that yet, simply because my initial impression of how this is composed and the fact that it's cracked left me with no reason to start adjusting it or melting it or heating it otherwise. As you can see, it's really just held in to the nylon portion of the sheath with a dab of hot glue. They spray it with some black paint up here to match up. No real issue with the design of it. It's simply the materials they use are inadequate and just simply too brittle. And functionally won't hold this knife very well. Other than the shortcoming of the sheath, I think what's not really easily to identify on the reviews and the pictures that are online is actually how well built the sheath is from a materials perspective. This is really solid nylon. It's not your typical cheap nylon Chinese type sheath. This seems to be really well made. It's double stitched. The nylon webbing is 2-ply back there, so it's fairly thick webbing. Not really sure I can take advantage of the Molle system and the way it hooks up to me. I simply just use the belt clip, no issue there. As you can see, there's another button down here, so you can do God knows what with it. This entire piece comes out, however, it's still attached to the very end here, so it's functionally a part of the sheath. But overall, a lot of different means to hook this thing up. If you wanted to throw a carabiner on it, you throw a carabiner on it. If you simply want to lash it to your belt, that's great. Lashing holes at the bottom. As others have pointed out, there's still no drain hole here for the knife. I don't see that being a huge problem. I mean, it's nylon, it's porous, it's going to leak out anyways. I don't see why they would have to punch another hole in there for drainage, but it has been something that people have pointed out. The midsection of the sheath, nothing has really changed functionally. It's still that same little pocket there. I like it because it has some additional adjustment here to clamp down the clip. It's got fairly good room inside. I use it just to throw fire steel in there. Swedish fire steels work excellent. It fits in here quite easily with tons of room to spare. You can throw those, a small pack of waterproof matches, a lighter, a Leatherman tool, whatever you want in there. There's fairly big room in here. I've actually thrown in a Phoenix LD21 flashlight in there with no issue. It does stretch it out a little bit, and it is a little bit tough to get the knife in there with the bulk of the flashlight, but just to give you a size proportion, that light can fit in there. But overall, the 2012 model doesn't seem to have any changes to it whatsoever other than the modification of the sheath. Again, same shortcoming with the plastic insert. Something they definitely got to change, or somebody can come out with an aftermarket one that will hold the knife inside a little bit better, because as it stands right now, this one is just a little bit too loose for me. Tighter than what I've seen on some of the reviews. This one actually stays in there. Has sort of a lump going into it. I'm not sure what's causing that, but clearly this is an area where they can improve upon. But overall, that's not enough to change my opinion of this knife. Based on the reviews I've seen, it's a solid knife. I look forward to using it, and I look forward to putting another review out on the other two Ontario knives that I bought. But overall, again, very happy with it. Stipulate when you order a knife that you want the one with the 2 clamps, because I still see some offers out there, whether it be on eBay or even some retailers, selling with the old velcro style clamp, which I think is inadequate for a knife this big and heavy. So buyer beware. Make sure you ask for it up front. If you have any questions about this knife in particular that you'd like me to show, put it in the comments and I'll do what I can. Thanks for watching.